I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes of August 18th, 2014 as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Baker.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
Henninger. Aye. Villagrana.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to get a motion to move out of regular session and move into the public hearing.
You can just declare us in public hearing.
Okay, then I'll declare us into public hearing. Okay, this is the matter on the Elk Special Event license.
There's nobody here.
Nobody here for it. Any discussion in the council? Okay, on that note, we'll move back into regular session. Don't need a motion for that, correct?
Make a motion that we approve the special events permit for the Florence Elks Lodge, 611 of 131 Front Street, Florence, Colorado, 81226, on 9/18/14 from 8 to 2, and 10/11/14 from 8 to 2.
Second. Is there any further discussion?
Just a point of clarification, is the application complete and the
Yes,
fees paid?
fees are paid.
Okay. I think he asked for roll call to get.
Oh, I'm sorry, roll call.
Villagrana.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Henninger. Aye. Martinez.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, this time we'll move into the visitors. I'm going to move to Mark Jones. You can come up to the podium, state your name and your address, sir.
My name's Mark Jones. I live at 1101 East 3rd Street, which is just outside the city limits. The reason I'm here tonight is I've come in and talked to the zoning officer a couple times, which I understand he's no longer here, on the large animal issue for the city, which is zoned residential. And then I wrote a letter. I was requested to write a letter, which I did. And to this date, nothing's been done about the large animals. They're not supposed to have them there. And they're tearing up my fences. And I'd like to have the council take action on this and have your zoning officer go down and get this taken care of. In the wintertime, these animals are skin and bones. They're tearing up my fences. They've got 4 dogs. I think you're only supposed to have 3, which I don't have a problem with. Only when the wind blows over to my side of the fence, and we're out there on the patio. They're poorly taken care of also.
Would there be anything else you'd like to add, sir, before I open it up to...
Do what?
Is there anything else you want to add, or now I'll start out? Any questions?
No, I just would like to see the council take action on this.
Okay, we learned about this today from Councilman Villagrana. Not sure what letter you're referring to. It never was passed on to me, but myself and the new city planner went out there, looked at it, identified what the issue is. Where he lives, he's got a neighbor who has horses, and they're zoned R3, so it's not appropriate for the zoning in that particular location. So it's something that I had not been aware of until today, and Wade, of course, being brand new, he wasn't aware of it either. So we are now aware of it today. So thank you for bringing that to us. And now we will tackle it and figure out what to do with it, because clearly under the current zoning, you cannot have those large animals out there. You can't have horses. So. And I'm sorry that whatever letter you provided never got to my attention, so I apologize for that.
Hopefully it gets taken care of now.
Mark, this was done in the previous, if I remember correctly, we had 2 incidents about where you had issued complaints.
Yes, I did.
There were different incidents under different ordinance officers and zoning, so I really do believe that our president, city manager, and our ordinance officers will take care of this matter. If not, I will keep a close eye on it.
Well, I appreciate that. When they first moved in there, they asked me if they could have horses. And I said, to my knowledge, at that time, I said, I don't think you can. She said, well, I know we can. I got a letter here. Says someone up here, that city gave them permission to have horses. Well, when we had this incident last week over the fence, she said, well, I know she's got a letter because the guy's name's Stewart. But what I'm thinking is it was the realtor that gave him a letter.
Yeah.
No, we didn't.
Well, I mean, we'll work closely with our city attorney and our code enforcement. And we will figure out, what the steps are. It seems pretty clear to me. I mean, I don't want to say too much until I consult with the city attorney and everything, but it seems pretty clear to me that it's a violation of the R3 zoning, and I don't think the lot is big enough to rezone it to be residential estates. So it's something we'll have to look into to make sure, but it seems relatively clear to me. The residential estates does allow animals of that size, but I believe you have to have either 5 or 10 acres. And looking at it on a map, it doesn't look anywhere near 5 acres, so we'll have to figure out the exact parcel size and all those.
Well, that was zoned into the city when Bruce was here. They wanted it residential, and I wouldn't let them zone mine into that. I wanted to stay residential estate so I could keep my animals.
Right.
Do we have any questions from any other of the council? Comments? I thank you, Mr. Mark Jones.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Jones, can I get your phone number, though, if that's okay?
Mr. Mark?
Mr. Jones, I'm going to go out and talk to him for just a second. He doesn't have to announce his phone number.
Okay, next on the visitors list, we have Mr. Brown, Rob Brown.
Good evening. We have a audio video challenge here tonight, so I'm going to use my notes, which are on the computer. I was intending to show those to you, but I didn't make the appropriate arrangements in advance. I thought it was a permanent setup here, so my apologies in advance. I'm Rob Brown. I'm the Executive Director for Fremont Economic Development Corporation, or FEDC. FEDC exists for the sole purpose of generating economic activity, bringing businesses to the area and creating jobs. That's what our goal is. About November of 2012, actually, we went through a complete reorganization. The organization is over 30 years old, but at that time, it was very clear that FEDC was not supporting the needs of the community, was not feeding those jobs in that they were supposed to be doing. So we did a reorganization, and I came on board in January of last year. So I've been working on this a little over a year and a half. We have 17 active projects right now that we're working on, 6 of which are in Florence. So the point that I wanted to make initially is that although this entity represents the county, our goal is to represent each entity within the county. That means the city of Florence, the city of Canyon City, the people in the west end of the county, anybody that's in the area. That's our goal, and we're working very hard to do that. And I think there's people in your community that would support the fact that you're seeing more activity from us in that area. We, in order to kind of get a feel for what was going on in this community and what role FEDC should play, one of my first objectives was to have what we refer to as an economic summit. So we brought together 100 people. Some of them are in the audience. We brought those people together to give us the input that we needed so we understood what the community wanted FEDC to do, what role they wanted us to play. Now, just a clarification point. We're a private, not-for-profit corporation, so we're not a government entity. We do work hand in hand with the government entities, and we do support these entities, but we are not governmentally controlled or specifically funded in that fashion. So, anyways, we had the summit. From the summit, we discovered a lot of things, and some of those things that we discovered had to do with what role that this community wanted us to play. Typically, an economic development corporation is somebody that does exclusively primary job creation, and when you have a bigger community, that's a wonderful thing. That's the only role that you play. That's all that you do. In a smaller community, our community wanted us to do a number of other things. So when we started breaking it down, interestingly enough, the number one piece that this community wanted us to play was in community type development, swimming pools and, things along those lines. That's very definitely outside the typical scope of an EDC. But it gave us the indication that we needed to be supportive of that particular effort. One of the pieces that came out of that meeting, 100 of your fellow citizens from Florence and Canyon City and all throughout the county said that they wanted us to pursue an organization like a regional building authority. So we took that on as a task. That's one of the many things that we're working on right now. It's not our exclusive effort, it's one of many projects. So what we've done is we built a committee, we formed a committee. Councilman Baker is one of the people that are on the committee as an example. We brought the committee together to discuss what that might look like or how it might be structured or what things we might be able to add to it. And we've been working with that committee off and on over the last number of months to try to discover these things. The committee got to kind of an apex. They got to a point where it was discussed that in order to proceed, we needed to completely understand the financial side of what this type of an organization would look like and how it would serve the community in terms of who would have the control and how it might work. And that was kind of a tipping point, if you will. So we went back to work, myself and my assistant and other people in the community went back to work, and we generated a budget and some numbers. First pass, it didn't work. It didn't pencil out on paper. It didn't have the intended effect. So we kept working on it, and we came up with an alternative plan which we were able to make work from a budgeting point of view. So from that particular point in time, we have progressed through with having additional dialogue. Now, we're at the point where we want to have this dialogue with the City of Florence. Okay, we've had this dialogue, and I'm talking about, drilling down into the actual numbers. We've had this dialogue with the City of Canyon City. We've had it with the Board of Commissioners, with Fremont County, and now it's time to proceed to here. Now, what I learned when I met with the county is they had a number of questions that we hadn't addressed yet. Okay, they were things that were outside of the scope of what we'd accomplished to that point. So we went back to work again and came up with some additional answers for those things. And I think where we are now is it's our belief that we need to create a draft of the agreement itself. We need a document that we can put in front of the City of Florence and say, this is what this entity would look like from a legal structural point of view, and then this is how the budget would work. That's exactly where we are at this point. In one of the committee meetings and then following up at the city-county meeting, the decision was made that we should have John Havens from the City of Canyon City actually draft the agreement. The last intergovernmental agreement was drafted by Ms. Jackson with Fremont County. Mr. Frederickson has a unique relationship with the City of Florence, and so Havens appeared to be the best solution. There's been communication ongoing, and most recently we met with him, and his decision was that he wanted to be presented with all of the language necessary from the committee's point of view or from the business side point of view in a document that he could then review and start adding his legal commentary on it from that point. So that's exactly where we are at this point. There's a few pieces that I believe are stumbling blocks for the City of Florence, and I wanted to mention those and then hope to get some dialogue going back and forth. Number one thing that comes up in every discussion is about the fact that Canyon City charges a higher rate for a building permit than Fremont County. Fremont County charges a higher rate than Florence. So if you consolidate the three entities, does that mean that you have to stabilize a rate that is consistent across all entities? After doing some research, our belief is that you don't have to have the same rate. You still have the city limits of Florence. We could have a separate rate for the City of Florence for permits. I think, admittedly, it would be much simpler if everybody had the same rate, but that may be a stumbling block for Florence to get over. So that's one particular piece that we're willing to have some ongoing dialogue. The other piece is how the entity would be staffed and who would pick the people that are on that staff. The most obvious model would be the Pueblo has a model, and as does El Paso County or basically Colorado Springs, the Pikes Peak model or the Pueblo model. We have a couple to pick from. I think what we are imagining is that we would blend those two together. So you would have appointed members. So Florence, in this example, would have an equal say on the board, the operating board, the governing board, as any of the other entities. And then they would have the ability, that board would have the ability to assign the management group. And I think if we do that, that puts Florence on the same level with the county or the same level with the city of Canyon City. So there's no discrepancies there. That can be handled in form of the agreement. So that's why I'm at this point where I think let's produce the agreement, then give you the opportunity to look at it. So I'm not looking for a decision today. What I'm looking for is the confidence from the city of Florence that this is a project that we could continue to pursue. And then when we get to that point where we have a drafted agreement, I'd like the privilege of sitting down in some kind of working session within the constraints of however your business is done, so we could work through these very specific points at a very detailed level. So that was what I'm here to discuss today. Any thoughts or comments? Mr. Baker?
My first question, now, you said that we have individual rates, but you didn't mention what the county might be doing. Would they be going with their existing rates, or would they go with the whatever Canyon is charging?
They have the same concern that I believe that Florence has, is that they have a lower rate. They're not interested in raising their rate. So I think the simple answer to your question is they would prefer to not have a higher rate. Canyon City, conversely, would prefer to have a lower rate. So there is traction as far as them coming down or coming closer to the middle. You guys are on the lower end of all three, and so if you were going to be in the middle, you'd still have to go uphill. But I think we could work that out contractually. Functionally, that becomes an entirely different question. And so what I think I may recommend, and the City of Florence may choose to accept that or come up with a modification, I think there would be a period of time, a ramp-up period of time. So instead of going from 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds or whatever, you do it over the course of 2 or 3 calendar year, something along those lines. But the goal would be to have a consistent application of all fees, all services, all customer service questions across the board, and that's what the advantage is of a regional building authority, is the consistency. From FEDC's point of view, I want to be able to go out into the world and say, come to Fremont County, because it doesn't matter where you build. We're the most friendly, building-friendly community in the area. We could compete on that level. We're small, we're nimble, we should be able to react quicker than going to Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Denver, whatever. That should be an advantage.
Okay. Well, of course, I've been on this committee since it was actually organized.
Thank you for that.
I guess that I would say some of the members read me as being opposed to the entire project. That is not true. I'm not opposed to the entire project. What I am opposed to is the fact that we have not, recently, we have not seen a financial plan to make this thing work. And that was the big stumbling block as far as I'm concerned. We just, maybe there is a new one and I haven't seen it. But what it's been presented in the past and what I've seen, I just personally do not believe that it'll work. Now, perhaps it's been revised, fine-tuned, whatever, and perhaps you could enlighten us about that.
By all means, and thank you for your service and commitment to the organization and clarifying your point. And you're correct. There are certain personalities in the community that have been identified as being for or against the project, which personally I think is ridiculous. You can't be for or against something that doesn't even exist yet. So I think that's why we need to proceed to a stage where we have an agreement so everybody can understand the details. Same goes for the budget. One of the main components of the budget that allows it to work would be the process of licensing contractors and charging a fee for the licensing. That component allows the budget to start to work. And that's somewhat contentious, frankly. But the reality of it is that as it stands right now, there's only one entity in the county that is currently licensing contractors, and that's the city of Canyon City. They have about 300 licensed contractors. Now, there are a whole group of contractors, to their credit, maybe great craftsmen and so forth, that have chosen not to be licensed. And so they don't build in Canyon City, they build in the county and they build in Florence. But from a marketing point of view, from a consistency point of view, I want to be able to go out into the world as FEDC and say, when you come here, you're going to get the best possible service, you're going to get licensed contractors, you're going to be protected from all the potential pitfalls. So I think licensing, regardless of the fees, is a great idea. That guarantees some level of consistency and some level of quality. Now, when you take that opportunity and you attach a financial component to it, in other words, you charge a small fee, the number that I threw out in the budget is $300 a year to be a licensed contractor in the area, that makes the financial model work. That causes this to work. Where it didn't work before, it causes it to be able to work in the new model. And those are some of the details that we would throw out there. There are a group of contractors that have shown opposition to this, and I understand that. I wouldn't blame them for not wanting to spend extra money, but we're talking about less than $1 a day, and we're talking about contractors that are doing multiple projects annually. So the citizens are not going to be dramatically affected either. If a contractor does 4 projects a year, you're talking about $75. You're not talking about a lot of money. But when you start using the increment, then it increases to such that you have an opportunity to put $100,000 in the kitty for this particular authority that allows the numbers to get back on the positive side. But to speak to your exclusion point, you weren't purposely excluded. We just got to the county and they kind of threw a monkey wrench in the works that required us to go back to work and get some more detail. And it was clear that until we resolved that, you were going to have many of the same issues. So I think we're working to get those resolved, and in the next couple of weeks, we'll be in a position where we would like to present a more comprehensive plan so you guys have the opportunity to plug every hole in it. And nothing is happening until you guys get on board. The other entities have both stated very clearly that Florence is the linchpin in this. If Florence is not involved, the county doesn't want to be involved. Canyon City wants all 3 to be involved to help level the playing field. So I think the benefit of an association like this is to get everybody on board. So, and clearly FEDC, our only objective is to serve the community and attempt to facilitate this. If this doesn't come together, we go off and we do our work and we continue to create projects on behalf of everyone in the county, including Florence. But if it does work, it's a great opportunity for us.
Well, if I may, please, I'd like to make a comment. And you mentioned, of course, that you may be looking at the Pueblo model.
Correct.
Perhaps.
That's correct.
And that is what model has probably been the most discussed.
Sure.
Now, when they actually started their program some years ago, building was booming and so forth, and quite frankly, they were doing quite well.
Absolutely.
They accumulated $5 million as a surplus. Now when things are the downturn, they've worked their way right through that surplus.
That's right.
And so I'm looking at it and saying, well, if they're planning, in fact, I understand they've laid Plato off and so forth.
Correct.
And so here we are starting in, I'll say we're still in the downturn to speak of, and we're trying to start a plan, or start this program, and so forth. And that's where I see a challenge. If they're having a problem and they burn through their surplus and so forth, well, where do we start? I mean, how do we come up with enough bucks to make this thing float?
Well, that is a great point. Now let's address that specifically. If you read their organizational documents, what they did is they actually borrowed money from the entities that participated. That's how they got the thing going. So that meant that they had debt service. And what they chose to do is retire that debt over an extended period of time, just like any other business enterprise might do. What they failed to do, however, is as the economy started to spike and they started to make a lot of money, they didn't accelerate their payoff of that debt. They maintained that debt. Well, when they hit the peak and it started to come back down, now all of a sudden all these responsibilities are still there, and now they're in a position where they're not able to keep up. So I think it's just like any business concern. You have to be vigilant about looking forward and seeing what your circumstances are going to be, or at least attempt to do so. I think that building a business in a downturn economy is actually the best time to build a business, because you build it at that base level. You don't build it on a false positive or something that's overly optimistic for what's actually happening. And in our model, we're not talking about borrowing money. What we're talking about is committing resources as the contribution. So in the case of personnel, vehicles, computers, things that already exist that are being used in this function now, those would be the components that would be committed to the entity. And then the entity would not have to borrow money and buy those things up front. So I think if we get creative, I think we can address that particular issue. But certainly, we would be ridiculous. It would be ridiculous for us to pursue something that didn't have a good foundation in business sense. There's some great minds in this room. I'm quite confident we can get you where you need to be.
I have one other question. And
Yes, sir.
that is, of course, there was some discussion as to where this department would be located, and now has that been narrowed down in your plan?
No, we have City of Canyon City and the City of Florence have both offered the opportunity for space. County at this particular juncture has got a whole other set of priorities, so they haven't thrown their hat into the ring. But I think we have a place to do business, and my objective would be to start there and then grow that into more of a significant establishment. Wherever we do it, we want it to be easily accessed by anybody in the county so they can get their work done. One of the advantages is a one-stop shop. What happens now is if the gentleman that spoke here that happens to be on the line, right, he goes to the City of Florence not realizing possibly that he's not in the City of Florence, and then he's sent to the county, and then they send him to health and welfare, and he gets passed all around. That happens routinely. I think what we've all agreed on is that the only way this works is if customer service is the number one issue, and it is handled at a very high level, higher than it's currently being handled. So I think those are important criteria. So the selection of where the site is, I think that would be the entities make that decision, but I would encourage them to make it work as best as possible for everybody.
I would encourage some of my fellow council persons to perhaps have some questions.
Sure.
I guess it's not really a question, but you said the licensing, contract licensing.
Yes.
I believe the City of Florence does license contractors, correct?
Always have.
And our fee is only $50?
It's $100 for general, 50 for limited.
Right.
My apologies, I misspoke.
So I see that as quite an increase, jumping up to $300. I think that could really hurt some of our local contractors. And, I'd just be interested to see the figures side by side of what we're currently spending within our
Sure.
building department and what this would look like on paper.
I would love to show you that information, and that's why I think we should have a working session and discover those, how those particular things line up. But frankly, if a person that's in business today, can't make up that delta between $200, $250, and he's responsible for building construction projects that are worth many, many tens of thousands of dollars, there's a problem in his business model, and that would help identify that up front. But I also think that there's room for compassion in this situation, and we don't want to damage anybody. We want everybody to be in a better position than they were before. So point well taken, and we can certainly work through that particular piece of it.
Councilman Zolgani?
Yeah, I think that in hearing you talk, I took some notes. I think basically what you're asking us to want to give up your independence and allow an entity, which Florence would be a part of, as you stated, to do their thinking for them. And I don't believe that our town would need to give up their independence for several reasons. One that Charlotte mentioned, and the other fact is that not knowing where it would be, not knowing what the makeup of the committee would be, or the board, as you say, I'm very leery of it.
Understood. Point noted. Other questions?
Just, Mr. Brown, you come here tonight to get consensus to move forward, correct? Or just
We're
kinda get us-
moving forward regardless, meaning that, that we've already taken steps to create the draft, and we've already been working on the budget. So that's going to happen. But what I would hope to gain is some confidence that you would like to see further detail, that you would like to see more information, and that you'd like to be part of the process. Because as Councilman Villagrana stated, you need to be an active part in this entity. And this is not about losing your independence. It's not about allowing somebody else to run the business of the city. What it's about is being more of a collective nature to go after business outside the area and bring it in. That's what we're talking about, and produce a very high level of service that frankly the budget doesn't allow for in a small community like Florence. So it gives you an opportunity to get more bang for the buck that you're already spending.
Right, I agree. And I understand, we can't vote on anything, and what I just want to kind of state on my feeling on it is, we've got some big projects coming up in Florence, hopefully, during the process of going through. And, and I feel kind of like the rest of our council people, it's not broke, don't fix it. We don't see that we have a major problem here. But in same regards, those are problems that may occur later. And also, I wouldn't want to stand in the way of progress, either. And I, just like they had, a lot of statements, have a lot of questions that would have to be answered, a lot of financial. And I do understand there'll be a board, so we will have a voice. I don't think, we'll lose our independence. We're going to have to rely upon that board, which we will be a part of. I always say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But sometimes, a better will can be built, a faster, smoother. And so if you're looking for a consensus, I'm for moving into the future with it. But, there is a lot of questions that have to be answered. By no means am I ready to give it a thumbs up, yes, let's sign a contract.
I appreciate that, and that's exactly what I hope to gain from today. And we're not discussing the fact, or we're not suggesting the fact that anything is broken. That's simply not the case. What we're suggesting is citizens, constituents of yours have come to the regional, or have come to FEDC and asked about a regional building authority. So whether the council people are in tune with that particular point or not, rest assured that piece does exist out there. So we need to oil that little squeaky wheel there. And maybe at the end of the day, the decision is that Florence doesn't want or need to be involved. But from my perspective as executive director of FEDC, I'm going to do everything in my power to bring business and jobs back to this community. And I frankly hope that what you feel like is a perfectly well-oiled machine and is not broken today is not able to handle the capacity that we turn on. We've got some very positive news that is in the works about jobs that we're talking about creating, and when those jobs happen, they're going to translate into building permits for new home construction. And when that happens, the current model is not sufficient to handle that. And when I'm out there in the real world marketing across the country, and I've been to San Diego, I've been to Chicago, I've been to Cleveland, Ohio, working on projects that I intend to bring here, those are some of the questions that they ask, and they almost compel us to at least address them. How are you going to handle these building department type issues? And one of the questions they're going to ask is that community capable of keeping up with a project of the magnitude that we're talking about bringing? So I think that's the piece that we need to consider. As Councilman Baker mentioned, there is this piece that says, no matter how much you try, you still are going to have a financial model that may not work, and we're willing to acknowledge that. But on the same token, you may have a need that you may not be able to meet either. So let's figure out how to do that.
Rob, this question was asked of me by one of our council members, and the question that they asked me, they said, so what happens under this scenario if say for example, some of the big projects that Florence are working on come to fruition, and there's a fair amount of revenue that comes in specific to the building permits. How does that split go amongst these entities? Does it all go to this? Does Florence retain any of it? Does it all go to the new entity? How would that work?
I think, in the typical model, it would all go to the entity. I think you've raised that question, and as have others directly, and I think that that's something that we need to discuss and figure out a solution for. But prepare yourselves, because as a project originator, a project manager, I'm going to come to the city of Florence and ask you to forego those permit fees as an incentive in order to get those projects in-house. So don't spend the money before we get it, because we may need to play that bargaining chip with some of these guys to get them to come here in the first place. Means that may be a piece where we could get real aggressive on it. Again, might substantiate a reason to get involved in the authority. But I don't want a decision. I want some support to pursue this. That's all I'm looking for. Let's all get smarter before we say no, and then hopefully I'll get you smart enough to where you say yes. Okay. Is there room for people from the audience or whatever for questions?
Do we have any folks have a comment on this or question?
Thank you very much for entertaining me.
No more from the council?
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that'll move us into old business. I believe.
You want to ask if there are any other visitors?
Yes, before we move on, was there any other visitors that would like to address the council? Okay, now we'll move into old business. First up would be the second reading of the ordinance 15-2014.
I'll make the motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 15-2014, approving a zone change, and that applies to West 2nd Street 207, West 2nd.
Second.
Roll call.
Baker.
Aye.
Henninger.
Aye.
Villagrana.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that moves us into new business. First up would be the acceptance of the 2013 audit report.
We're going to ask you to table that because the auditor can't be here tonight. And bring back the acceptance to the next council meeting. But hopefully before then, at your meeting that you have next Monday, the auditor can at least be here to answer any questions. But the actual acceptance, we're asking you to table to the next council meeting.
I'll make a motion that we table the acceptance of the 2013 audit report until we have had a chance for the auditor to present it to us at Monday the 8th at
1:30.
1 o'clock.
Not an official council meeting, just an opportunity. We're having a council goal-setting session at that time, so it will just be part of that. No decisions could come out of it, but we don't need one for that anyways.
They can present it on the 8th and accept it on.
Be accepted on the 15th.
Yeah, except on the 15th.
Right.
Yeah, no action out of it on the 8th. The 8th is the only day the auditor can be here with, apparently he has vacations and he has other commitments and so on and so forth. Literally, that was the only day that we could find.
I need to amend my motion to table it until the next city council meeting, which will be after September 8th, when the auditors have had a chance to present their motion or their
That will be the 15th.
15th.
That'll be the 15th.
Yes. And
The
who
15th.
was the second?
Does Paul have a second?
Let me see.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Villagrana.
Aye.
Henninger.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Next, we have the modification of premises Louis Street closure.
Hi guys, I'm Joanne from Louis Place, and I'm here for the modification of premises for Louis Street Dance on September the 20th. You should have your little maps, I believe, in front of you of what we're doing. And as usual, we're just doing what we always do, 12 to 12, with our band and a little bar outside and inside.
Are you charging admission for this event?
No.
Okay.
No, that was a one-time thing, and that
I
was,
just was wondering.
it was for the Marine Corps.
Yes.
Is what that was for.
All right.
Yes.
I have mostly unrelated to this, but our Public Works guys today made a request to pass on to Terry. Apparently, when other events happen that close off the street, there's somebody, and they believe it to be a patron of the bar, who comes out and gets mad because the street signs are out there and then throws the sign. So if you could ask whoever, Terry or whoever's on during the day to make sure they try to prevent whoever it is that's doing it. Obviously, we know it's not Terry and it's not the official actions of Louis, but anything you could do to help us when the other events happen, that would be
Of course, we have been made aware of that. Of course, we don't know who it is.
Right, I understand there's probably nothing you can do, but I told him I would ask you that.
Yes, and of course, yes. No problem.
Do we have any further questions from council?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the street closure for Louis for September 20th on Front Street from 12 to 12.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Take roll call.
Pikes Peak. Oh, Pikes Peak, I'm sorry, Pikes Peak.
Yeah, Pikes Peak.
109, so.
I'd like to amend to...
Please, we're not going to move it.
Sorry.
You even forgot.
I won't. Too many years.
Main Street to Alley, just to be out, just not the block.
That's cool. Could we modify that for the address?
Modified to
To-
Pikes Peak instead of Front Street?
No, 109.
Oh, 109 Pikes Peak.
Well, actually,
South Pikes Peak,
it'll be from Main Street to the alley.
from
Right.
Main Street to the alley. Do you want me to start over?
No, if we put all that together, I guess. We got a modified second. The alley will remain open.
Yes, of course.
That's still Pikes Peak.
Do we have a modified second?
Still Pikes Peak.
That would be Baker.
I'm not sure.
He helped to modify it.
I helped to modify it.
I would assume that he's okay with it.
Okay, roll call, please.
Caniger,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Martinez,
Aye.
Filigrana.
I think I.
Mayor Pro Tem Esley.
I got you to stand
I
up.
believe we have 5 ayes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, resolution 12-2014, an agreement for lease of city property.
Okay, this is kind of our standard thing that we do at the mountain park and at the cemetery. One of our city employees, unfortunately, passed away not long ago, and he was the caretaker at the mountain park. We now have another city employee that we would like to put into the mountain park. The terms are spelled out before you. This one, there's a lot more work that goes with taking care of the mountain park and the cemetery necessarily, so that's why you see the rent being what it is. And basically, this employee will work for us on their regular job, but then they'll go home, stay in the mountain park cabin, and take care of the facility up there, close it et cetera, when it's allowed. At this point, we're not allowed to close the gate, but they take care of it, mow and do all those kinds of things. The Forest Service does not want us to close the gate, so at this time, we left it in there as a, if at such time we're allowed to close it, then they will close and open the gate. But for right now, that's not part of what they do because we can't close it. So do you have any questions about this lease?
Before we had a person that had animals, does this individual have animals that will be up at the park? Like horses and cows?
No, there will be no horses.
There'll be no horses, there will not be full of cats. One of the things that we've added in here is a requirement that we will have inspections, and so we will go and inspect it to make sure it's not left in the state.
Well, the only reason was that I asked that question, that we had trouble with animals getting into the water intake, so.
Except the regular bears and cougars that live up there.
Gotta keep
I don't know why anybody want to live there.
Did I make a motion that we approve resolution number 12, 2014, an agreement for a lease of Mountain Park?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Villagrana.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Henninger. Aye. Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, that moves us into Resolution 13-2014, the improvement of the planning grant application.
Okay, this is the project that we've discussed several times over the last few months, and this is the Pikes Peak project. We're seeking a planning grant from the Historic Gateway Improvement Project grant for $60,000. It has a match of up to $10,000, and we are asking council to approve this. We do believe that this is a very important project for the city moving forward. We get Pikes Peak, not only the street improvements to the streetscape, drainage issues, and it's definitely one that is very much in need of some upgrading.
I approve this wholeheartedly. I just would like to know the $10,000, are we going to have to borrow it from ourselves, or?
No, what we do is it would come out of next year's budget, so we would budget it in next year. If you approve this, you're saying that in our budget process, we will approve the $10,000 and earmark it for next year.
Thank you. Then I make a motion that we approve resolution number 13, 2014, supporting the application for a planning grant from the Colorado Department of Transportation for North Pikes Peak Avenue.
Do we have any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Villagrana.
Aye.
Henninger. Aye. Martinez.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Liquor license renewal for the liquor locker. I don't believe I see anybody here. Is there anybody here for the liquor locker? Any discussion from council?
All the paperwork in order.
Yes, the application is complete, fees have been paid. Police report is attached. There's no health officer report because this is a package liquor.
Then I make the motion that we approve a liquor license renewal application for liquor locker at 10150 Highway 67, March.
No.
No.
Excuse me?
That's his address.
That's-
It's
Oh, I'm sorry.
15 West Main.
I'm mistaken, and I will amend my motion,
No.
if that's all right with y'all. Located at 13 Main Street, Florence, Colorado.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Villagrana.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
Henninger. Aye. And Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Aye. Okay, now we'll look at the transfer of the liquor license. It's a temporary license from the Creative Cork to Ito, is that pronounced correctly?
Ito.
Ito? Japanese Steakhouse.